So let's look at this densely packed page of music by Diabelli, and it right away begins with some chords. And I continue, all based around D, D being the tonic note of this piece. I would like to start at the left hand moment. So we have the possibility of doing as written 4 and then a 1, 2, which kind of implies that you would put 5 on C sharp, but that kind of implies that I need to slide inside a little bit. So for instance, if I were starting out and I'm trying to prepare my position as best as possible, I'm making sure my 5th is already on C sharp, so I'm forced to slightly slide because, of course, 5th finger is very short. So that would be my reminder of arrow that points inside the keyboard. But one of the things that I try to avoid doing is using my 5th finger. Haha. Well, not really, but what I'm trying to see here is a bigger picture too. One where I realize that if, let's say, I start like this, that forces me to shift quite a bit right here. I'll highlight it as indigo. You know, there's that big jumping moment in the left hand. And then I'm thinking, okay, then if I do like this, at the end I have to go back to the D note right here. Yeah. And which finger is already positioned to naturally play that D? It's the 3, which makes me reverse engineer and think, well, what if I started with 3 right there? What? Okay, let's get rid of those highlights. What if D's here were my 3, were played by 3? Then I have a couple of options. Maybe I could use a 4, or maybe I could even use another 3. Just reposition. Because then the beauty of this solution is I just need to move my thumb at the indigo highlight to be prepared for that so-called dominant 7th chord. We can even label it, why not? It's an A7. I'll put it up here because, well, maybe I shouldn't put it up there because it might confuse that I imply that A7 is the name of the right hand chord, which it is not. But actually, you know what, I'm going to get rid of this entirely. I'm going to just scribble it right here. It's an A7 chord. Yeah, incomplete, but who cares? So with this A7 chord after the indigo, if that's my natural position, then look, 3 naturally goes to that C sharp anyway. So I'm really feeling strong about using the 3 there instead of that editor 5. So 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So of course that's a 2 in the left hand, like that. And that really avoids major going inside the keys, right? Using the weak finger on the black note like this, then a big shift, and then back to this. Just too much motion. So somebody who is pretty clever might point out immediately that, hello, let's do a pink highlight here. What do I prepare for the upcoming harmony, the so-called G chord, G over D? Might as well use that here, just to keep pointing those out. So G over D chord, how would I even like finger that? Do I stretch? I would. I mean, my hand can kind of reach it. It's a bit of a stretch between 3 and 2, I admit. But it so nicely takes care of not being anchored on D with finger 3 and not leaving that comfort zone until I absolutely have to down later in the piece. But let's say you don't like it. Well, fine. There's nothing wrong with slight adjustment from 3 to a 4 like this, right? But this idea of changing from 3 to a 4 in the same note creates a little bit of that jump. It pales in comparison with the advantage of what I just pointed out in the beginning of this piece, that 3 is anchored, you find all these other harmonies. So we start with D. Let's go ahead and label all the chords. That's A over C sharp, right? And that's an A7 chord back to D here. Like, all of these are so easily reached by anchoring 3 on D. So again, if you have a strong opinion otherwise and you can articulate it, write me a comment. I'd love to have a discussion. But so let's say you hate doing this 3, 2, 1 on the G over D chord. Fine, put 4 here and then just come back to 3. Just go right back to 3. And which means, yeah, you have a bit of a extra adjustment. Let's make it an, I don't know, orange highlight right here. Fine, no big deal. I don't think it's that shape is too hard to find. But if you can slightly inconvenience yourself with this stretch, might make the return back to the D chord right here after the orange much easier. There it is. Yeah. So if you say your hand was a little smaller, it might be like me playing like this, kind of, laterally moving back and forth to negotiate this particular harmony. So again, your mileage may vary. If you absolutely hate this stretch, fine, put the 4 here, but then come back to 3. I have no idea what's going on here. Did you notice? Oh, okay, that's just a restatement of the 4, just to remind to use 4, 4, 4. So if you're okay with my idea of using the 3, then of course use another 3 right here. Okay, then more of the same. You'll notice that these patterns, D, A over C sharp, A7, D, G over D, they keep coming back over and over until they don't. So let's see where this pattern ceases. D, so again, that's a, if you like my fingerings, that's a 4 there, that's a 3. Yeah, so the first moment of trouble occurs here. Let's make it green. I would say that's a major shift. We're moving towards A major, incidentally. There's that G sharp you see coming in, which is of course part of A major key signature, so we know we're leaving the comfort zone of D anyway. So we might as well do this massive repositioning. And because the thumb has to play the C sharp, you also have to move inside the keyboard. I apologize. This is so densely printed, you're probably confused by all my scribblings and what the music throws at you. Yeah, I mean, some editors love to pack more on one page. So big shift there. Is there an alternative where you, let's say, don't need to use 1 on the C sharp? You could probably use a 3 and a 2. Maybe a 1 and a 4 on the G sharp D there. But again, that might be a little too stretchy for some hands. I can kind of do it, but honestly, if I were fingering this, or if I were playing this, I am fingering this, but I'm also saying there are a couple of different possibilities. What is my choice? My choice would be to do the arrow inside the keys. And then this is the case where, let's make it cyan, yeah, just to help you see where I'm at on the score. I would go with the 4 because, of course, in the next measure I have this massive 1, 2, 3 clustery kind of chord that there's no other way to finger other than 4 followed by 1, 2, 3. So 1, 1, 4, 1, 2. And there is my 2. There's my 1. Yeah, and there it is. Okay, so I think that's enough left hand for now. We've kind of mapped out what's going on. Let's go back to the top and look at my preferences for the right hand. So true, there are very, very many possibilities here, each of which has its own advantage and, of course, a disadvantage, right? One doesn't go without the other. It's very rare that there is only one way to finger something and it's absolutely superior, just like you saw with my left hand. There were some compromises, some extra stretchy going on, but you know, I ultimately justified it to myself and hopefully to you why I have those left hand fingers. In the right hand, I would say it's a little more challenging because I really like this opening 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Each time we have strong, unstretched hand position, which allows me to grab those 3 notes with crispness, that quick staccato move as I reposition each time. Right. What's another possibility? Another possibility is perhaps to go 1, 2, 4 and be in one position and grab those fingers, those notes, the second chord of the first measure basically, with fingers 2, 4, 5. But you know, while this advantage of being in one position it trumps the problem of repositioning after the first staccato chord, in the same time it really doesn't give you very strong fingers at all. So kind of forget what I said. I think in the right hand I would strongly be able to justify the idea that this is superior than something like this. Or maybe alternatively, right, where I shift after the first chord and then try to find this 4-note position for the following 2 chords. So what that means is you have to practice sideways playing, right? So instead of doing this and then, oh, I have to move there, and then this, oh, I have to move there, minimize this worry by doing this. You're instantly sliding down. It's just a different way of feeling the staccato attack. You play staccato, but instead of staying in one place, like this, you move. There. It's like I not only grab with my fingers, I feel my whole forearm, or actually my whole arm, with the upper arm moving, is engaged to grab that first chord, and it helps me to go here. And I would probably aim for the edge of the white key with my thumb. So you're forced to start inside the keys since your thumb is on the black key, right? So you're starting out like, oops, sorry, where's my undo? There it is. So you start inside the keys like this, and then as soon as you jump, let's put that kind of box to show the jump, you instantly move back out. Oh, sorry, forgetting to change my pencil. Okay, so inside the keys, and then as you jump, wrong octave. Right, you jump like this. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense because as you grab that first chord, you're kind of pulling towards your torso, and so your hand wants to move this way. Yeah, so I'm just pushing it to the side. That's what would happen if I played in the same position but on the edge of the key. Right, now I'm also doing the sideways motion. There it is. Again, very physical, very sports-like, all these moves, but once you master them, they just happen. Okay, and then just lateral shift. Let's put that in and just practice them until they feel, okay, I'm getting them. Of course, this 1, 2, 4 beautifully sets us up for the third measure. But let's not leave little things unattended to. So one minor adjustment right here. Well, I could do it a little better. There. That's a 1 position. You want to remind yourself to go like this. Right, so 1 has to move to E so that you can then go play that group of 16th notes, 8th notes, land on G, and then of course we do the same thing but on a different harmony. And I would literally use the exact same fingering pattern. 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 4 is possible, just like it is possible here, but it feels a little stretchy, feels a little uncomfortable. So 1, 2, 5, jumps sideways, right? So again, we want to use that sliding out at this point as we jump, and then we stay on the edge of the keys with the thumb. Move here. Oh, sorry. Move to 1, 2, 4. Because then the following line. Oops. A little more complicated. We do have to engage that 5 on the F sharp, that high F sharp you see at the end of this 8-bar section. So we do actually have to move like this. And put the thumb on A, right there. Which I would still strongly encourage you to move to 1, 2, 4, because then all you have to do is slide as opposed to reposition a bunch of fingers. I think the natural inclination might be to use 1, 3, 5 on that chord, and let me just put in 1, 2, 4 as the superior solution. There it is. And then shift inside. That's it. That's the first line. Let's try to put it together. I'm using my 3 in the left hand, of course. Man, there's so much scribbling on the page. Maybe what I'll do is I'll play it a measure at a time first. Okay, I think I survived. So I had 2 jumps in the right hand while articulating the left hand. See if I can do it a little faster. Okay, so far so good. Nice thing is there's only movement in the right hand, left hand is staying put, good. Second measure. Right, making sure to reposition the thumb in the right hand. By the way, notice there's a forte and the piano contrast, so let's make sure we're doing it. In the beginning we did this. Played that non-staccato when I know why, because my right hand played the chord as a sustained chord as opposed to a staccato chord. Let's do it one more time. So I'll stop right before that piano because now I want to play like this. Now, there's one little thing about the left hand that I forgot to point out. Just like there's a little adjustment in one finger in the right hand, we kind of need to work on adjusting one little finger, not a very little finger, a pretty big finger, the longest finger, in the left hand. So let's add that reminder right here. Oh, no, we cannot do that, because that's too much of a stretch. So the reminder should go right here. One more time. Right here. There. And actually it's a reminder for not just the third finger, it's also the reminder of the second finger. So I'll put that into my left hand. There it is. Okay, so we have two things to work on in the second measure, which is move the thumb to E in the right hand and reposition at the very end of the measure in the left hand. So one more time, forte at the beginning. And don't forget to also change the dynamic level. That's kind of the third thing. It's forte, forte, piano. There it is. Yeah, and that sets us up for a nice forte piano contrast through the rest of this half phrase. Let's see, third measure. Seems okay. At least no position changes there. All I have to do is play a nice quiet piano while still being crisp in the left hand. So you notice I'm doing this thing where I'm sliding on the key to just grab my staccato notes with the quick action of the tips of my fingers and then instantly relaxing and repositioning back out. You know, I really don't like this thing that some people teach, these curved fingers, and you just don't have any strength this way. No professional plays this way, so why teach this way? So flatten it out, grab, grab, grab. Much stronger. Yeah, okay, so that's measure 3, a little piano. Okay, so measure 4 is seemingly in the same position, but if we think about it, we need to add the position shift reminder right there. Yeah? So we don't want to wait until the last moment. By the way, maybe a strong case could be made for fingering this right here with a 4. Because if you think about it, 4 is already on the A. So yeah, it's slightly different from the opening gesture in measure 1. Okay. So 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to 4. But maybe if you have the capacity to stretch out 1 and 2 to C sharp and E, why not do that? Right? Let's just use 4 on the top note. So it becomes 1 to 4, 1 to 4, 1 to 4. In some way, it's psychologically easier to understand. It's just the same fingering pattern, all chords, all 3 chords. So maybe you can even retroactively justify that slight inconvenience of an extra stretch for the first 3 opening chords. Anyway, just an idea. But whatever you do, prepare right there on that box in measure 4. So first you're like this. In fact, why even wait? Why even bother to wait until the release of G? Let's move this box right here. In fact, yeah, right there. I think that's the best position. All right, so that out of the way. Practice doing that. Imagine you're in this position before measure 4, and sorry, but the left hand is right here. Measure 4 is the same as measure 3. Right, so notice what I'm practicing. I'm practicing the movement of 1 and 2 from here to there. There it is. And then of course release the G at the right moment. So I think this idea of, if you don't like, let's say, my idea of starting at the end of passage, I like to do that. I like to figure out where my end point is, what I'm doing there, sort it out. But even just moving from the beginning, procedurally, checking to make sure you're doing all the right things in every measure, that has the benefit. Really, what, how shall I put it? What's at the top of the practice priority hierarchy, right? What is the most important thing to do? It's to know when to stop. If you keep playing and you're like, oh, I'll stop when I feel like I messed up and I need to stop then, you are always creating that psychological stress of, oh, I'm going to mess up eventually. I'm going to mess up eventually. What you want to feel is, I'm going to do this one thing. If I mess up, I'll fix it right away. And if I don't, I feel really great because I achieved a small but a sizable goal, like a mini goal in a piece of many mini goals, right? So stopping wherever it is you choose to stop, wherever it is you choose to start, make sure you also decide where it is you're going to stop. That was a little loud. I could do a little less on the piano. You know, maybe that first accent. Right? And then just stop and check. Am I in position? Not quite, because my fifth finger, I'm letting it be relaxed. I want it to be here. So one thing we should really do, and that indigo highlight, is remind ourselves to do this. So fourth measure ended up being also a little bit tricky, like the second measure, something in the right hand, something in the left hand. So I start the measure like this. Release that G a little too late perhaps. Didn't move. So there are all these little things you have to focus on doing, and the only way you can focus if you say, I'm only going to do this one little thing, one measure, maybe half a measure, that's fine. That's nice. Yeah, just feel good about achieving a very small but sizable objective. All right, continuing on. So we have the measure 5. Even into measure 6 perhaps, because it kind of groups together. But I would caution you not to combine too much at once. So just this. Oops, see, I didn't go to 1, 2, 4. There it is. So I just want to make sure my right hand is doing its jumps, that's all. There it is. And then the final measure of that line. Yeah, maybe what I should do is put a ledger line through this box so it's clear I need to move to A with the thumb and just generally push my whole right hand inside the keys. There it is. So just one thing to watch out for in this, what is it, 6? Measure 6? Yeah. But again, all of these things need attention, so spend as much time as you need until you feel comfortable. Next line. So let's not forget to reposition. I spoke too soon, my apologies. Two things in measure 6, because of course in the very end of the measure we better reposition our left hand to this. Ooh, and I didn't play the C sharp. Right, so as soon as I hit that final chord in the measure, left hand goes here. Right, again, maybe two things in one measure is too much. Split it up into 2 halves. That's the first half, and then a tiny little second half. Right, just do that. Here, I can do it, and then, so split it in after each position shift. Stop and check. Did I do the position shift? If you did, fine. And eventually you can combine both of them quite nicely. All right, now we go to the next line. Okay, make sure all fingers are ready. Release that D too late. I apologize for the clicky D I have on this piano. Need to fix it. A is a bit clicky as well. Right, so it seems like we're all set, right? 7th measure, the first measure of this line, perfect. No problems, one position, just play it. So seems to be the 8th measure, except not so fast, because if you're doing the repeat, now you have to reposition back to, boom, a huge jump. So that's the first time. However, if you're continuing on, you're now repositioning to here. And check this out. The octave line doesn't make it immediately obvious, but that first chord, the G chord in the right hand, is actually sharing the D with the previous D. So that, let me take some. So that D right there is the same exact D, which means if I'm already using a 3, why not use a 3 again, right? So instead of 1, 2, 4, why not do a 1, 2, 3? Again, I apologize, unless you have a big screen, it's probably very hard to see the fingers on this very densely packed page of music. If I start zooming in, unfortunately my iPad is back in that territory of things freezing all of a sudden. I'm still of two minds about that editorial fingering coming up in the right hand. But yeah, let's do 1, 2, 3. Then all you have to do is slightly reposition fingers 1 and 2 for the measure after the repeat. Yeah. So measure 8, the one right before the repeat bar line, quite a bit more challenging because of having to practice different jumps in the right hand or slight adjustments in the right hand. And then of course same in the left hand, that pink highlight, you have to decide, are you doing this, are you doing that? Something has to change. Let's do 4. I'm okay with doing 4. Right, and then here we go. But if you're going back to the beginning, of course you do not need to do anything in the left hand. That's nice. Okay, done. So, 2 ways to practice in the right hand though. If you're going on, that's the box. Here you go. Right away. If you are going back to the beginning, that's the box. Right, so 2 boxes. I'll label 2 and 1. So the 1 means first time through, and then 2 means second time through. Just position like this, or first time, big jump. Very important. All right, let's go right after the bar line. So that's measure 9 if you're counting. Yeah, so I think the first measure is fine, or the first measure after the repeat bar line is fine. But the second measure, I'm inclined to do 1, 2, 4 again. Even though there are some problems with that choice, I just like 2 and 4 so much more than 3 and 5 for articulated playing. So let's, oops, 2. So 2 here and a 4 right there. Just somehow feels better. That means that after you pluck the G, instead of finger 3, it's finger 2, and you reposition it immediately to G sharp. Right here. So that would be a 2. And then of course the following finger would be a 4. That would be a 3. And that would be a 2. And that would be a 3. A little better. And then another 2. So you're doing quite a bit of readjustment of the second finger to hit that G sharp and that F sharp. But to me, it's so much better, I think. Well, maybe it's okay. Maybe 3 and 5 is okay because it's piano, you don't need to hammer it out quite as loudly. But I love the amount of control I get from 2 and 4. So let's try it with 1 and 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. You still have to reposition 3 to play the G sharp, right? You still have to go inside the keys more than you would have to if you use 2 and 4. It's probably one of those, I can't quite justify my fingering choice as end all be all much better than the 3-5 choice, but I just like 2 and 4. And I'm okay with slight readjustment of finger 2 twice. Right, so those two tiny little boxes for finger 2. Anyway, let's continue real quick and then I'll wrap it up because you can see how formulaic this whole process is. Decide what the positions are based on certain pieces of logic, put it all together, practice the jumps, stop every time to check that you've done the jump. All that good stuff. Okay, so this highlight, let's put the box in there. Second measure after the bar line, after the repeat bar line, measure 10. Has that coordinated moment. Something like that. And of course another dynamic change, so make sure to do the piano. That. So something to work on. But then once you've done the jump, once you've checked that this is working, maybe I would even say place the second finger on the F sharp as you play A. It makes it a little easier. Because that might be a little... Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I completely forgot it was not a staccato moment, but what do you call it? Legato passage. So, okay, apologies. But again, if you prefer my 4-2-4 combination, then of course that would be a 4 right there. And again, seems like the final measure of this line is very easy. Of course not. What's coming up? Let's see. I have to zoom back out and deal with the freeze. So, well, if you use my 3 on D, 4 on C sharp approach, just the second finger has to move, so it's not too bad. And actually in the right hand, you don't have to move anywhere at all. Thumb is already on E, even if you use the 3 and 5 grouping for that complicated little lick. Right, but if you use 3 and 5 for that complicated lick, maybe use 1 and 3 as you can kind of barely see in the beginning of the third line. Or if you use my idea of 2 and 4, then use 1 and 2. That's what I would use. Right here, 1 and 2. Then would be 1 and 3, of course, and then another 1 and 2. Let's... Right, so I'm kind of freezing right there. And I'm going to remind myself to move the second finger in the left hand. I'll zoom right into that final measure. And I'll also remind me to do this. So first I want to go from... I'll make sure I've got that right positioning. Okay, I'm doing that. Too loud. There it is. So what's tricky about this moment with the A? It says to hold it with that tenuto mark. And quite possibly it could be an indication from Diabelli, although I'm not 100% on this. He still writes in a very classical style where most of the time these tenuto staccato marks were not used, they were implied. But there's another little moment about this sustained A. Let's say we want it sustained. It doesn't really matter how you play it, because by this point in a real piano there are no dampers. So that rings the same way. You could hold it, you don't have to hold it. It's different than, let's say, playing here. Or, right? So that there it really matters, but here it doesn't. It's more important that that's a crisp staccato in the left hand. Okay. Right, so I would really work on that. I don't know why I forgot to add the reminder for the second. So anyway, at the very end of this measure, we want to shift 2 and 3, just like that. Okay, now let's go to that third line. I'll keep this zoom just to make it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. So, and that's back to forte. Couple of things to reposition. I'll just quickly put them in here and here. So I'm even going to stop on that first position change in the right hand. Just stop and check, and then check that's happening. What am I doing? I just realized I keep messing up my fingering because in the left hand, and the reason is, look, back in the third measure I had A over C sharp, finger C, finger 3, 1, 2, because of course I'm going to this note A down below with finger 5, so that kind of makes sense, keeping that stretch open. But here I don't have to do this, and I have this mental dilemma, because I could potentially just go 3 and 2 like this. That's why I was first not given my reminder position change for the 3, because I'm going to use a 4 anyway. Let's get rid of this keyboard. And now I'm realizing, wait a minute, that's fingered as 4. So I have to make a choice. I have to make a choice. Do I actually finger the same A over C sharp chord differently, because I don't need to go down to that low A, or do I finger it the same way? What would I do? Let me think. I would probably finger it the same, you know, it just feels nice to go back to a friendly shape. So if I've been practicing doing this anyway, well, another solution is this. Go back to the top and refinger that third measure A over C sharp as a 4. I think 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. I like the feeling of strong 3 doing this. But in the larger scheme of things, maybe 4 makes more sense, you know what? Just makes you shift 5 a little more rapidly, but that's okay. Yeah, 3 here for sure. I'm really puzzled. Hey, maybe you guys can leave me a comment and see which you prefer. Do 4 both times on the C sharp, that A over C sharp chord, or do 3 both times. That's truly a toss-up. That's 50-50 as far as I'm concerned. That feels nice. It feels alright as well. And I only have to shift one finger. So, let me cross this out. Or, no, not even cross this out. Let me put a question mark. Let me put a question mark. There it is. Okay, I think that's a lot. Let me just finish this second phrase and then be done for today. I would do a 3 there. Right there. So, let's not do this 1 change into a 3 thing. I never understood the logic behind it. I mean, it's nice to be able to do it, of course. In some cases, you have to change at the last moment, but here we can change right here. Just move. And then you're set for the rest of the passage. Right. Just a slight adjustment there for that final A. Just after that cyan highlight. Right, I'm zooming in just to make things a little easier to talk about. So, green though. Green highlight. Big moment. So that's one reasonably big moment in the right hand. And then a big moment in the... Big moment. And then another big moment. So my suspicion is that this measure, which if you count is numbered 14, second measure of the third line, probably the toughest measure so far, at least as far as I can tell. So practicing that will take some effort. But then you're here. Right hand is relatively simple. Just a little adjustment right. I would do it right there. Don't wait till the last moment. Just swipe and reposition. There it is. But in the left hand, yeah, a couple of shifts. Right, a small shift in the left hand's thumb. And then a big shift on the cyan highlight. There it is. So that's another tough measure. It doesn't have huge jumps, but you have to coordinate. So the left hand adjustment, right hand adjustment, and then a big jump at the very end of the measure. There it is. And then you can continue after that on your own because I am exhausted. I'm done for today. Anyway, ask any questions in the comment and hopefully some of what I suggested makes sense and helps. But if not, that's okay. Thank you for watching anyway.